super excited to always talk about the people that are pushing the new technologies and really helping. Really, what the goal is how to make it easier to do business with. That's really for my clients. This is what it's all about, and I know that's part of your goal as well.
Yeah, I think there's so much innovation going on right now in our space. It's reminds me of the early days of like 2005. I want to say the excitement around e-commerce in the B2C side, and I feel innovators like yourself are really defining how the future of trade will look like online. There's a lot of technical elements, but if we zoom out a bit for a second, what we're doing here is really significant for the economy as a whole, and obviously benefits a lot of the innovators themselves, the merchants, the big brands moving online. So I'm very excited about this conversation.
Yeah, kind of building on what Bar mentioned. This is a massive opportunity, right? If you just look at the US, there's $17 trillion of payments estimated that happen between businesses. And only around half of that is being transacted digitally. So think about that. 50%, like that's a massive number, right? And so what happens is those are manually being taking these wires or paper checks or even cash that are still being done transaction. That's very inefficient. And it's also costing companies lots of money. So the opportunity I like to start with, let's make sure everybody understands when we're talking about B2B commerce, what does that actually mean? And so I like to start with the idea of I've been starting to say, like, when we're talking about B2B commerce, think of you should be saying B2B omni-channel commerce because many times people just get confused and think of commerce as just one thing, right? Like just the direct web selling. But if you look at all the opportunities that B2B commerce helped us solve for, think of it as all the ways digitally you can sell, right? And if you think about these major channels, there's channels such as, well, the traditional channel that's been there, the first electronic way to pay is EDI. And it's almost become kind of legacy, but it's still a massive amount, right? It's a huge percentage of what are electronically the biggest chunk is actually EDI and but that's over 40 years old and there's lots of limitations but y- the other opportunities you have what people mostly think about B2B commerce is the direct commerce, the mobile commerce where you're logging into a website, you have an account and you buy. But there's so many more permutations of and other channels, such as if you think about marketplaces, right? Marketplaces where you're part of a marketplace, you're a third party on a marketplace, you have your own marketplace that you may have your own products and third party products that make it easier for your customers to buy from, and you're taking a cut of that, right? And there's lots of permutations. And what you're seeing one of the largest investments in some of the VCs in the past year and a half have been around vertical marketplaces. So even things that people in the past would have thought, no way, like chemicals, no.com, right? Like is one of the biggest funded vertical marketplaces out there and it sells chemicals, right? You wouldn't have thought of that 5, 10 years ago. So marketplaces is a huge channel. Another channel that people forget about is the procurement channel and how to connect B2B punch out. So if you hear that term, that's when B2B commerce sites connect up to procurement sites such as Coupa or Reba and make it easier so that when companies are buying from you, instead of fulfilling right through their payments, you can also connect to their procurement directly and to make it easier through the workflows that already exist, et cetera, et cetera. So big picture is B2B commerce is a huge, there's lots of different ways to exert. And we're like Bar, like you said, we're early days, right? Although I don't like to say that B2B commerce is kind of like B2C because people then think it's much easier, but it's not. It's that, and this might be something that'd be great to get your perspective on, is just who are the customers and who you're trying to do, because it's not just that one person that you want to hit the buy the button. It's more complex than that.
Yeah, it's a great overview. It's okay for me to just jump right in. I think, first of all, you said something very important at the end. B2B commerce is different from B2C in so many ways that it's really hard to quantify right now in this webinar. In high level, uh, in B2C, it's all about removing friction um, to acquire a consumer right in the intent point. In B2B, friction is not a bad thing, but it doesn't mean that friction equals bad experience. It's just about building the right product to support the right business functions that needs to use it. The interesting thing about the relationship of consumer and businesses, is it's the same customer on the other side. It's the same person that knows what experience he should look for. He's digitally native in nature. Um, so this is where those things interact in a very interesting way. From one side, I'm a person that is used to buying on Amazon as a consumer. Now, talking about Amazon for business, a different conversation, but I'm looking for the same level of experience and level of service because this is what I'm used to. And this is a good segue to talk about the point you mentioned about vertical SaaS. Vertical SaaS and marketplaces and new procurement platforms that are competing in a vertical level with the Coupa and Ariba of the world. Uh, it's a fascinating space. We at Balance, we grew up at Y Combinator, one of the most prestigious startup accelerators in the world. And we didn't know we had that vision of creating a seamless B2B payment experience online because I was close to B2B e-commerce for years before that, but we didn't know that this massive wave of innovation happening on the tech side. At the beginning, we went straight to distributors, wanted to get their thoughts, but looking right and left, we just found like this massive amount of passion from entrepreneurs that are coming from the tech space, looking to disrupt this old verticals and old ways of doing things. So this is how we grew up as a company. And today we serve, I think, something 25 or 35% of the biggest B2B marketplace in the US. What makes them, and you talked about chemicals, we have two in chemicals, in lumber, in textile, in 38 different verticals today. And from our angle, uh, I'm putting my humble head aside. We see a lot of what's going on the true online space of B2B commerce. And it's clear that vertical SaaS, they're, in Israel, we call it chutzpah. Uh, it's their attitude of taking innovation all the way through is something that I think pushes the entire industry forward, which is very common in technology, to think about digitization all the way through. I think, talking about B2B commerce, you mentioned the fact that this is very, very much in the early days. We're talking about, 15%, maybe less of companies that really adopting B2B commerce. But when we talk, and today we serve Fortune 500 distributors, manufacturers, also in different industries. What we learn is that B2B commerce made a very, very significant step forward in the last 5 years. That I think a lot of this value creation is attributed to people like yourself, all which are really pushing the industry forward. It's not easy, it better than anyone else because it requires education. And this is what is expected from us as the people that are thinking about the next step. But I think if we put the positive light on it for a second, I think there was a huge step forward in taking the concept of discovery and really making it something self-serve. For us in balance, when we talk about e-commerce and B2B e-commerce, one of the main values is experience. And the thing that is most associated with experience is self-serve. People just want to do what they want at the moment that they want to do it. They don't want to interact with anyone. Uh, Obviously, there are segments that is highly customizable, that is very important to talk to someone. But when you look at the major chunk of B2B trade, it's still something that people, and I think this is the amazing part, again, zooming out, thinking about the economy. The beautiful thing is that what B2B commerce is really opening the world to is the finding the supplier that is the right for me right now. Not in general, not thinking about it 20 years ago. I have these fine suppliers that I have great relationships with. Now I can search. As I mentioned before, now I can discover other suppliers. And I think we did a huge step forward in taking all this raw data from the ERP and really making a front end component to it, which is something, Paul, that I know you're really focusing on to make amazing with the B2B commerce platform that exists today for Salesforce, to SAP and others. There's a handful of those. I think what Balance is trying to focus on is the next step. There's the discovery and there's the trade itself. Balance wants to make sure the trade is self-serve and seamless, cost-effective, the same way that the discovery phase is happening today.
Yeah, I think really interesting points that you're bringing up there. If you think about the opportunity of this, what traditionally the challenge with a lot of these, especially more industrial companies, have been they've traditionally sold via sales team, right? And many of these deals have been done through handshakes and done through, you know, manual different ways. And a lot of what you're talking about, this discovery and changing the way they work, it's it's hard to change that because they've been doing it for a while, but the expectations of digitally native, like millennials are now the largest part of the workforce, right? They're expecting these tools. And so a lot of what we're dealing with is getting over the change management challenges of the leadership of the task. And, for example, one of the things that we've done as a learning is as part of these, you know, a couple of different things of leveraging these tools is that one, make sure your sales team's involved in the design, right? Two, and most importantly, make sure that they're incentivized to use the tool because I've come in after the fact of this great new B2B commerce system and it wasn't getting the uptake that you'd expect. And we went and interviewed the customers and they said, well, yeah, it's a great tool, but I really like Joe, my sales guy, and he told me he wasn't going to get his bonus if I ordered this way. So that's why I still deal with him. And it's like, aha, you need to make sure that the salespeople understand the incentives to leverage these tools, right? And to adopt, right? And showing that business value and the business case going back. And I'm sure that's part of the same kind of education you're doing from a payments perspective, right? It's you're not taking away from things that before, you're just enabling it and there's good payback. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what is that payback and kind of talk through a couple, you know, cool case studies.
But yeah, what is the value being created at the end of the process working with us? We can divide two areas. One is around the operational cost and the revenue opportunity that's being created. In balance, if we think about the revenue opportunity, And what a lot of our use cases is enabling the long tail, the ones that a large distributor doesn't have the economic sense to support in onboarding, providing terms, and managing the transaction lifecycle. Um, if you take a traditional process, um, and let's say I'm the biggest beverage distributor in the US, one of our customers, and now I want to go direct. I want to start serving more and more customers in a direct way to get more of that margin. Or I'm building a marketplace to leveraging my brand to bring third party products, which we work on that use case with a very close partner of ours, Miracle, and other, uh, an article, for example, and other players in this space that we have close relationship with. Uh, so you are trying to scale this channel with customers that you don't know. Now, traditionally, um, you are working with your customers that you know for years, and you support them in a way that you're doing orders, you know each other, you have a lot of trust associated with doing business together, and it's quite okay. But what happens when you're trying to scale? What happens when you're trying to acquire new customers? What happens when you're trying to make everything self-serve? This is where balance comes in, and taking each portion of the life cycle um, and making it more digital and more modern. So it starts from the onboarding, which you can set up your payment preference and terms balance using a proprietary tech that we've built in-house to evaluate this business in a way that before you need to do reference calls. You need to start doing this KYB element of the process. Usually it takes between, and we did this analysis, and Natalia, you can help me with it, but I think it's between 13 days and 27 days or something like that. Balance is doing it on the spot, integrating it directly to your ordering system, your ERP and your e-commerce system, setting that up with the terms, with the payment preferencing, with the right finance person. Um, Now there's the element of the payment itself. Balance is enabling something um, that gives the bars the flexibility they need without having this negotiation with the supplier, really facilitating that trust with tech. So if in the old days there was this conversation, I'm supporting Net 15 only with cards or only with ACH, and try and find the right configuration that will speak the same language. Balance is enabling buyers, business buyers to pay what they need to pay and with the right payment that suits their business operations. They have their way of doing business payments. And Balance wants to be as flexible as, again, going to the consumer, but in the context we mentioned before, which is giving buyers the way to pay as they see fit. Balance is an abstraction layer that takes that different channels of checks, wire, ACH, cards, and other ways with different terms, reconciling them and creating this beautiful payment experience in the receiving side, getting paid instantly, reconciled, and always at the same format all the time. And everything is synced to your core systems. In that way, you're reducing your operational hazard of managing this AR shit show, forgive me for my language. And the buyers are getting the flexibility they expect. So I think this is how we dance on the enabling business to pay as a business, not as a consumer. All the this traditional approach of moving payments online in B2B is just let's replicate the B2C, just the credit product. And it doesn't work because only 8% of businesses are paying with cards when they need a supply. So it got stuck. And this is where balance was born from the need to build something that is specific. Obviously, not talking about all the workflows associated with it and like making sure it's working in the way your business works. But that's in high level.
No, that makes sense. And I think what you're touching upon there is, if I look at, another big wave of what's happening and how you kind of fit in the middle, and it kind of lines up perfectly. B2B commerce is at the center of the front office, right? It's in the middle, touching, it's combined with the payments and product and order management. And so there's a huge move right now to upgrade on ERPs, right? Whether it's the SAP S4 upgrade or Oracle, et cetera. And so what we're seeing is when these big transformations are happening, large companies are now saying, well, we might as well upgrade the whole front office, right? And that's the opportunity to get commerce. And we're helping with other components that are important to make that light to make that transaction easier, because that's really how you interact with the customer so much more, that front office piece. And it's also part of that sales transformation where those teams are now doing more digitally. And so it's, people have thrown out about talking about order to cash, but really the front office is much more, right? It's much more than just how to do, how to collect dollars in the back office. It's really how do you engage? How do you supplement your sales and reach out and use all these tools, like you said, be it from a product discovery, from the acquisition to buying to leveraging tools like Balance to make it easier to get those payments done all to move quicker. And that's a lot of like our largest chunk of work right now is enabling all the front office, and B2B commerce is right in the middle. The front might be some marketing from some sales, CRM, and we have service, and we might get into CPQ, and all this kind of intertwines. But as the simple overarching theme, we talk about it like a front office plus type of solution that we're really focused on.
All the point that it's what we call it now is the changing paradigm. I think the biggest point is that, in industry, when we thought about B2B trade, we thought about moving online, we were very focused on reducing cost. How can I create a tool that will take a manual work and enabling it or empowering it with some digital elements? I think what you said is let's look forward on how we can use digital not only to reduce cost, but to create new business. And that's a changing mindset. In B2C, it's obvious. And again, I will always return to B2C because at the heart of it has similar characteristics of, yeah, I can make my work more efficient. But what happens when you are building an experience that is engaging in a way that increase the AOV, increase the repeat rate, and also acquiring new buyers you don't even know that will never use the old way of doing things. And I think this is, by the way, why vertical and SaaS are like eating the world in that sense, uh, because they are digitally native in nature. This is what they are. They're thinking about everything in a scalable way and experience. Um, and I think uh, today it feels like a nice to have. Some in some areas, I think we are very close to the point when it's a must have. The self serve experience, because the same buyers that you know and love, um, if they didn't already, will start engaging with digital platforms to see if they can get better service, a better way of doing things.
Yeah, just to build on that, and I've got a couple of great examples. Like it's becoming critical. And what's interesting, yeah, before people thought of, well, it's a cost savings, right? That's part of it. But actually, and this is hilarious because of some of they're not different tools, but the front office, the value case is actually helping to pay for the back office. Because, and here's a great story. I worked for we did some work recently for a large, big industrial company, and it was a significant investment. And they were trying to do a value case just with the back office, and it wasn't quite there. Then they started to bring in our strategy guys around. Well, what if we thought about the front office and the revenue and price optimization and how that all fits in? So with 25% in the investment, we were able to drive 55% of the value case. So in essence, the front office helped to pay for the back office upgrade. And to your point, what it was actually saying there is that the growth, there's net new growth. That's the number one thing that, again, is not it. That's the aha moment. It's not just about, oh, well, it's going to be cost savings. No, it's net new revenue because a couple of things. One, you're going to find new customers. Two, you're going to learn so much more about your customer when you look at the data, how much they go around, and you learn from them, and then you can tweak it. And then thirdly, we also leverage, you know, pricing engines that also help to optimize so that people will buy in time, right? And so if you think about all of that, in some ways you're trying to get through the balancing act for B2B is you're trying to get through all of the agreements to align to them while trying to reduce the friction so that the people that are empowered can buy and you can optimize, for your situation. So it's really exciting times.
Yeah. I think, the reason why we call it like a change in paradigm is because when you say it out loud, it sounds quite obvious. Um, but building technology as an enterprise and thinking about how can that drive new adoption when it's a B2B model and not B2C, it's super innovative. And I think we have, and again, I'm speaking like very high level because I do believe in the mission. I think Balance is we try to be very mission driven company. Um, our mission is to increase e-commerce trade in the world. And I do believe that we have an important role to play in the history of the evolution of trade moving online. And I think one of the strongest cases that we have towards pushing it forward is to talk about that changing paradigm, talking about it's not about optimizing for operational cost. It is, but the main thing is to increase the pie, opening new realm of possibilities. And, we have some use cases that really gets me excited, which is building this, finishing this digital journey of building your business online. That the end point is opening up for the public.
Yeah, companies, B2B commerce is our fastest growing by far. It grew 50%. We go June to June, and it's a massive growth. And we're seeing it across the board. And even though some of the steps that a lot of the companies are starting are still some of the early, we're still early days into it, this is a massive transformation. And so I think one of the things, and this is good as part of this discussion, is, Bart, to your point, like people don't even understand, right? Like when they think in their head, they're only thinking about it very narrowly or some cost savings off to the side. And some of our more progressive clients and the ones that are ahead of the game, they're being more strategic and like, hey, no, we got to get out there. We got to learn how to use the tools and evolve it. And so we've gotten to work with some companies and where it's not just, hey, I'm going to implement something and I'm done. It's, hey, this is now part of how we sell. How do we continue to evolve and make it easier to do business with? How do we take all of our frictions out? How do we target all of our different segments? Right. And, to your point, Bar, like you guys do really good around, bringing in new segments that maybe you haven't done business with before. And that's again a huge growth area that we talk to our clients about starting off. So, and I think the other important piece that again is this will also accelerate. Wall Street is asking the question, how much digital are you doing? How much of your revenue is coming from digital sources? We're starting to hear that from questions from analysts, and that's going to continue to put the the push onto CEOs to do this because we they need to do more with less support. And so for so many reasons, we're really on the early days of this growing. And if you're not on there yet, we have quick starts to help you get going, help you build the business case around it, and then leverage. And we have relationships with lots of great tools, be it front office, commerce, order management, um, product information, all of these things, search engines, payments, that we can bring all this stuff together to make a big bang and really make a difference. And you know, feel free to reach out to me at DeForno P on Twitter, or I'm on LinkedIn, or reach out to me at Deloitte. It'd be love to be able to help.
We're here to serve, helping you taking your digital journey all the way through with working with beautiful partners that are facilitating this ecosystem together with us. Uh, the only thing I will put the focus on is, and it's something that was part of our ongoing conversation today, is when we think about digital, we think about new revenue. We think about new business first and operational cost second. It's a strong statement, but if you think about it this way, you can really change something significant, not an incremental step, but the step function in your digital journey. Uh, and yeah, again, you can reach out to me in all the different ways from LinkedIn uh, to my email is bar@getbalance.com. And Paul, just want to say a big, big thank you. Uh, you're definitely on the front lines of this entire thing, and I appreciate the work you're doing. It's all part of our mission to move global trade online, and yeah, you're a great partner, and appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks for your time, and looking forward to way more people adopting B2B commerce and making more money. Who can argue that?
Definitely.